So last winter we decided to move all of our ducks and our chickens from our big barn to our little barn. And we knew that this meant when spring came, we would have to make them a new outdoor chicken run. Today I am going to show you what we did for a new outdoor run. I'm going to show you putting a net over the top of it. And I'm going to show you making a little door so the chickens can get out the side of the barn into the outdoor area. That's what I'm going to show you today. This is where the old run was. In here we took down all the panels. Some of them we couldn't take down because the trees grew into them. Here's the doors where they used to get out. And their run was the whole length of the barn. The chickens had this front area and the ducks had this back area. We really like to reuse stuff here, and so, man, that rooster is loud. We do like to reuse stuff here, and so we did reuse the dog kennel panels from the old run, some of them, to build the new run. So why am I putting a net on the top of this? Why don't I just free range my birds? We used to free range when we first moved here. And we free ranged for several years, but it just wasn't working for us anymore. We have a lot of predators around here: hawks, eagles, fox, coons, packs of dogs, all sorts of things that were coming and just kind of annihilating our chickens. And so we ultimately decided we're not going to free range anymore. And so we build outdoor huge runs and we net them, and the net helps with the aerial predators, keeping them out, and then it keeps the birds in. So let me show you what we did. Before I realized that I wanted to make a video of this whole thing, we already had moved the dog kennel panels over and we'd put them all up. And we'd also started running some fencing wire lines over the top of this whole area to act as like a sort of web that would hold the netting up that we were going to put on. More about that in a little bit, but this was pretty easy to put up. We just had to dig it in a few places to account for some of the little changes in elevation in our yard, but all in all, not too tricky. If you are confused about what that post is or what any of this is that's going on here, just hold on, I will get to it. So the first thing we have to do is put up 1x4 boards so we have something to attach the netting to. We're going to be stapling the netting to these boards. And these are just boards that we made from other boards that we found in our use someday pile. Next, we're going to put a U-nail in, and we're going to run fencing wire through that so we can keep creating this grid or this support thing that we've made out of old fencing wire. And that's what's going to hold the netting up over the chicken run. And this wire runs to a post that has some U-nails at the top, and then we're just running the wire through that and then twisting things good and tight with fencing pliers. The other wires were put up earlier, and they are run from different places on the top railing of the kennel panels across the run, and they make this sort of web that's going to hold the netting up. Next, we are taking this big netting out. Our run is 30-ish by 30-ish, but we ordered a 50 by 50 net to make sure that we had enough to deal with. The net for our previous outdoor run was way more money, and it was made of a different material. This one that we ordered was much less expensive, and I think it's going to work fine, but it was a struggle to work with. It wanted to get tangled on everything, even dandelion stems, which made it really tricky to get up and over the grid that we had made to hold the netting. Luckily, our oldest son got home from work at just the right time. He would probably say just the wrong time, and he was able to offer another set of hands to get this netting up where it needed to be. Teamwork, y'all. So this is what the mess kind of looks like once we had it up and over the walls and laying on the fencing wire web that we had built. So let me just take you around so you can get a little closer look at everything. So in case you want to do something crazy like this, you too will have an idea of how to punt your way through it. Once it was up and where it was supposed to be, we had to get it around the 2 trees that we had not taken down when we were clearing stuff for this area. It didn't end up to be too big of a deal though. Because the trees were right next to the building, we just ended up cutting a little bit of the netting to make a space to fit around the tree, and then we stapled the netting to the boards that we had put up. After getting the tree situation taken care of, we had to continue gently moving or pulling the netting across the webbing so it was all the way over the sides where it needed to be, and we knew that everything was lined up and there was enough to go around before we started zip tying the netting to the kennel panels. But before we pulled it too tight, we went ahead and stapled the one end of the netting that was next to the building to the 1x4s that we'd put up, so we could then pull on the other end to get things good and tight as we got the net where it needed to be. The next step was to pull things tight and zip tie it up all nice along the entire perimeter of the outdoor run, being careful to make sure that we could still open the doors and that nothing was zip tied to the wrong thing to cause issues later. I am all about the zip ties, y'all. They are one of my favorite things to steal from the garage. Now, before I get to showing you how we made the door for the chickens to access the outdoor run, let me just show you around what the outside looks like one more time and how everything is put together so you can get a good look at it in case you ever want to do something like us or not like us. Aside from the netting that we ordered, everything we used to make this outdoor run was stuff that we had laying around the farm, or it was left over from another project. So don't knock the usefulness of a good, gonna use that someday pile. Now we've got to make a door for these chickens that have been locked up all winter so they can get outside. We cut a hole through to the outside with a Sawzall. Obviously, don't do this until you know where any electrical is run. And then we continued cutting through on the outside using a pair of snips. Taking a peek in at the chicken friends who have no idea what's going on. Hey chicken friends, you are really going to love this when we get it all done. A lot of the projects we do here at the homestead, we kind of figure out as we go. So here's my husband looking at what we've got and assessing how we're going to make my plans work. We grabbed some more lumber from our use someday pile to start framing in that little chicken door. Here's a closer look at what we're working with. Time to start framing in that door, taking all those pieces of wood that my hubby cut out, tapping them in there, getting it done. Here's what it looks like from the inside, from the bird's eye view, I suppose. Here's what we ended up with on the outside after a couple different designs. I think it looks pretty spiffy. And we even had some leftover J-channel from when we sided our house a few years ago that made this whole thing work out even better. We did ultimately decide to put a piece of wood on the bottom where the chickens are walking out just to help things last longer. Then it was time to make the actual door, which of course just came from wood that we had sitting around. We did have to buy the hinges though. My hubby put the door on, and then I went inside and marked where the doorstop thing should be. And then my hubby put that little strip of wood in so the door had something to close against. This was something I totally forgot about, but he was all over that. Then it was time for the latch, and we opted for a hook and eye. Pretty simple. And there you go. I think it turned out pretty good, especially for not having a super solid plan of attack. A lot of our homestead projects are, we kind of got an idea, and we kind of figure it out as we go, trying to use as much of what we already have on the farm. Now it was time to let all those birds out and see what they thought. And I'm going to be honest, they needed some convincing. They needed some help at first, but now they love it. They go in and out like it's nothing. We did have to put a ramp in because the ducks could not get in or out without it. So that was something we had to add later, but it's working out really well. And the birds hardly want to be inside anymore. Hi guys!
What's up?
Bark, bark, bark. So there you go. Now you know how we did it. Let me know if you have any questions.